Laura, he is the plan in Minnesota at quarterback. And despite the fact that they tried to keep Sam Darnold, they tried to keep Daniel Jones, they had discussions with Aaron Rodgers, they looked at other quarterback options. Let's not mistake the fact that J.J. McCarthy is their QB1, and he has been planned to be their QB1 all along. You heard J.J. McCarthy talk today, coming off the torn meniscus knee injury last year, that he believes he is supremely ready to take on the challenge of becoming the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. They believe that too. We still need to see him out there. He still needs to prove he can be effective at the NFL level. But there's no doubt going into training camp, despite the fact that the team traded for Sam Howell on the final day of the draft, that J.J. McCarthy heads into the season as the undisputed Vikings starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's certainly an offense that's set up great for the quarterback, a coaching staff that, as we know, is very QB friendly. It was fun to hear J.J. McCarthy himself saying, I know I'm ready to start. All right, the Vikings put a focus on protecting J.J. this offseason. They added guard Will Fries and center Ryan Kelly in free agency. They even drafted a lineman, Donovan Jackson, with the 24th overall pick. And on the defensive side, they improved their front four, Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. They also added cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, so making some really crucial moves. As now we see Swagoo joining the show here. Marcus, do you like the setup for McCarthy in Minnesota this season?
I love the setup for him. And obviously, Boogie, there was confidence when they drafted JJ, right? You got an offensive head coach. They take JJ in the draft. Unfortunately, he gets injured, but he showed some signs in the preseason. And now you're in that sweet spot that we've seen a lot of organizations. Because if they find out that he really has it, now we can go all in on the Super Bowl without the contract malfunctions that happen when you have to give these guys $300 million in total earnings. So I look at the Minnesota situation very favorably. We got a lot of confidence that Kevin O'Connell can push what he needs for a quarterback, and he makes it easy. I got an example of how easy he makes it. First of all, the pre-snap motion, gaining information. Now, remember, he was on the sideline this year, able to watch this. Later, they bring over Jordan Addison. Now you got a bunch concept. It's telling the quarterback immediately where the ball is going to go. You know that they're in zone. You know guys are finding spots. You go underneath. These are the type of concepts that you use for a rookie, especially a guy with those type of athletes on the outside that can make a great run after catch. He's in a great situation.
I think I agree with you, Marcus. Look, Kevin O'Connell does a great job. Look, much like we've talked about Sean McVay, or we've talked about Kyle Shanahan. Look, I think Kevin O'Connell deserves that same type of love in terms of being a play caller that's really friendly to quarterbacks. And look, maybe it's his history playing the position. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that Kirk Cousins played well for him. Heck, Josh Dobbs played well for him. And then you look at Sam Darnold, he threw 35 touchdown passes a year ago. There are good players around him. Kevin O'Connell does a really good job. And I do think this. I'm a strong proponent in playing is the easiest way to improve and get better. Because of his situation, because of the ACL, because of the opportunity to watch somebody play in that offense at a high level without the pressure of having to perform each and every Sunday, I do think there is some advantage to that. And look, if he took it seriously, we'll see the benefit of that, in really what becomes his first year as a starter.
And I'm spot on with you guys. I mean, it just seems to be right. We got three bald head guys up there on the screen. Get Shefty up out of here. And I'm right with you because, Laura, you mentioned it when you talk about the revamped offensive line. The interior of this offensive line will be completely different, and I think that's so important. J.J. McCarthy is healthy right now. That means he gets an opportunity to go through the entire offseason. He has a brand-new center that he now has to work with. Getting that relationship off to a good start, learning this offense, seeing it through Sam Darnold's eyes a year ago, and now implementing himself, making it his own throughout the offseason will go a long way. Aaron Jones is back in the backfield. You added on Jordan Mason. That takes so much pressure off of the quarterback, being able to hand the ball off and letting his running backs do work and having an offensive line that he can trust. J.J. McCarthy flashed last year in the preseason. Vikings fans have to be excited to have him under center.
I was I really like what you just said, but I got real distracted about the bald thing there, so I've been workshopping something, and I don't know if this is it yet, but what I would say is forget the blue man group. We got the bald man group today, except you, Adam. Let's get to some top stories as Adam jumps back in.
I still got hair.
Oh, Adam is actually shaving his head right now, so he's not ready. But either way, we're going to go ahead and go through them here. We've got some news today, of course. George Kittle gets a big deal. This is great to see. Kittle, of course, a fan favorite for many reasons. 4 years, $76.4 million. Contract extension, of course, includes $40 million guaranteed. And Kittle has been an important weapon for Brock Purdy. Purdy ranks second in QBR, second in yards per attempt, and has thrown the third most completions of at least 25 yards among quarterbacks with at least 150 attempts to a single receiver. They also have added 20 touchdowns together, since Kittle entered the NFL in 2017. He ranks top 3 in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns among tight ends. Tim, how important was it for San Francisco to get this deal done with Kittle?
Look, I think it's a big deal. We saw, a year ago as the injury bug, and some disgruntled employees, hit the San Francisco 49ers. Look, quarterback is still a dependent position. And especially when you think about guys that don't just overpower you with their physical ability. That's Purdy. He can play at a really high level. He can create offense and all of that. But having good players around you matters when you play this position. So, Kittle is one of those guys. He's good in the run game for the Niners. He's excellent in the passing game. He brings an attitude that I think is infectious to that football team. So there's a lot of reasons that you look at it and you say, yeah, look, it makes sense to keep and pay and reward guys like that that have meant what he's already meant to that organization.
Yeah, the attitude is a huge part. I played against George Kittle. I was 2020, and I think I was ready to retire after that game because you talk about how he plays and how he exemplifies who the San Francisco 49ers are, and that goes a long way for Brock Purdy. And you look at this team in the NFC, I think that window is still a little bit, it's cracked open for them right now. But you look at some of the other teams in the NFC. We watched, obviously, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. We saw the Rams take them down to the last few plays. And then the Commanders and the Lions, we saw what they had and what Jayden Daniels is going to become. So as much as you may still like the San Francisco 49ers roster with some of the stars that they still have, I don't know if Brock Purdy is enough to elevate this team to where they need to go on the NFC to be true contenders.
I'll take it a step further. And I get it that you have to, have this optimism. But based on what we've known San Francisco to be and watching them go to NFC championship after NFC championship and Super Bowl, the window is closed. And the window is not closed because they can't compete. The window is closed, J-Mac, because of what you said. It's more people that has entered the fray. And they are no longer the team to beat in the NFC. And I'm not don't take that the wrong way. I'm not casting aspersions. San Francisco is going to be formidable in the NFC, but San Francisco is not going to carry the same cachet that they've carried while we've been doing this job the last 5 to 6 years coming into a season. And it's not only because of what Philly has done, which is the team to beat in the NFC, it's also because more fighters have entered the fray. When you staring at one man, it's a little bit easier than when you start staring at 6 or 7. And you can legitimately talk about that many teams in the NFC now potentially having an opportunity to be Super Bowl champions. So the window is closed when it comes to their dominance, but they still should be a part of that conversation.
It wasn't that long ago that we're talking about, all right, so they got to get Brandon Ayuk's deal done. They do that, but now he's injured. We're not exactly sure the timeline there. Christian McCaffrey, don't know exactly about his health. But as we do bring Adam Schefter back in now, Adam, where do we stand with the quarterback?
Well, they've been talking, Laura. They've been talking since the Combine about getting a new deal done. And right now, it doesn't seem close. But I think there's a sense on both sides that both sides want to get it done. And it feels like it's more like a summer deal than it is a deal right now, though anything could change at any moment. I think both sides would be confident that they can get this done by the start of training camp, shortly after the start of training camp, and that Brock Purdy could be tied to San Francisco for a long period of time. That is the hope. That is the goal. That is what both sides are working towards, but they are not there yet, and it may be a little while before they can get there.
Yeah, just a reminder how good he's been. I mean, Brock Purdy ranks 4th in total QBR since he entered the league 3 seasons ago. I'm a little hung up on something, though, Swagoo. Okay, you said there's 6 Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. The Cowboys, one of them? Trying to do some math here.
No, you're not doing that to me, Boogie. No, they're not.
It's a Tuesday.
Okay?
Why not?
Now, obviously, we got Detroit. We got Green Bay. Okay. Philly has to be in that conversation.
Yep.
The Washington Commanders are in that conversation. All right. And I ain't going to name no more because everybody going to think I'm biased. But they in there.
Wait, you just put the Cowboys back in, I think. All right, you guys at home, figure out what he just did. I'm not total backs. Turning our attention now to Drake May in New England. Thank goodness we got J-Mac here. We've got our own Patriot in the studio, okay? And nobody spent more money in free agency than the Patriots this offseason. They made big signings and picks on both sides of the ball. You see a lot of it there, adding offensive weapons in Stephon Diggs, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, while adding key pieces on the offensive line to protect Drake May. They also added key pieces on defense with Milton Williams, Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis.